Hello and welcome to another Pioneer video. Today we're checking out Blue-White Spirits, which is an archetype that has picked up some new tools over the last year. At 1 mana we now have Seam Rip as a removal spell that's also an enchantment, which will be relevant in a second. We have Sheltered by Ghosts, which is a card that can help win races against aggro decks and gives the deck a bit more interaction for things that are already in play. And then we can also protect our creature that's enchanted by Sheltered by Ghosts pretty well, thanks to cards like Rattle Chains and our many counter spells. And then at 4 mana we also picked up Enduring Curiosity as another flash creature that plays well in this playstyle of being able to play cards at instant speed. And then it's also an enchantment which is relevant for Geistlight Snare, and it also helps us draw additional cards, which is always great, especially in a deck with some cheap evasive creatures. And then, as I mentioned, Geistlight Snare benefits from controlling both a spirit and an enchantment, can discount it down to just a single blue, which is incredibly efficient. And then we also have No More Lies as another powerful blue-white counterspell. And then rounding out the deck, there's a Mausoleum Wanderer, nice to play early, can pump it by playing additional spirits, and can also use it to counter instants and sorceries. And then, as we mentioned, Rattle Chains, a way to help play our other spirits at instant speed as well, and can also protect the creature from removal, giving it hexproof until end of turn. And then Supreme Phantom is the anthem effect of the deck, the Lord, giving spirits +1/+1, which also includes our Mutavault in the mana base, which turns into a 2/2 creature with all creature types, including spirit. And then Skyclave Apparition, another spirit that can deal with things that are already in play. So we have removal outside of our counter spells for things that may have slipped through the cracks. And then lots of blue-white dual lands, couple channel lands for added interaction as well. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. Missing white mana for No More Lies. I do have double Rattle Chains and a couple snares, but we will be playing catch-up, and counterspells aren't great when you're behind, so I don't think I'm keeping this. This is a bit better. I have both my colors. With Phantom we can at least build up our own larger creatures. Probably ditch one Spell Queller. In case I don't draw a land 3, at least we'll have a No More Lies. And then Curiosity is how we take over the late game. Facing mono black so far. And an Aetherborn. Could be obnoxious. For now, do I Phantom? I think it's worth it. And then it's easier to sit back on my instant speed plays next turn. The Aetherborn makes it difficult to race, but at least it's not disruptive, so we can eventually overpower it with a Curiosity. And Liliana, I kind of expect it, but if they mine us, we can still finish it off. Alright, so pass it back. Couple counters in hand, just waiting for lanes. Which I found. They could activate Castle. It's a little painful here. Their opponent does nothing. I'll be patient. And Curiosity is pretty annoying for them to get rid of, since it'll come back as an enchantment. Still gonna be patient on casting it. I'll let the Aetherborn hit me. See if there's anything I need to counter, and then maybe end of turn cast a Curiosity. So now activating Castle has to be more tempting. But they also have 3 cards in hand. Trespasser, one of them. That's one I could fight over, because it can also, well, it's probably not going to exile the Curiosity before it comes back. But it is annoying when you want to keep up instants, because then it switches to night and gets bigger. Spell Queller could work. Could also backfire, because that would allow them to maybe get back Trespasser at instant speed to exile the Curiosity as well. But yeah, I guess if we go for Snare or No More Lies, they can pay for it. So I'm kind of locked into Spell Queller. If they have Fatal Push, they haven't enabled Revolts, so they would need something else. And they have an Archenemy Charm. Okay, so Trespasser hits the battlefields. But the Charm also would have been a perfect answer to the Curiosity, exiling it. So now we want a main phase Curiosity to keep it daytime. Have to make sure I keep blue available. Sometimes hard to tell here with Urborg, because we will have an enchantment for Snare at least. So I'm behind on life totals, but we're about to get ahead on cards. Happy to trade Curiosity for the opponent stuff and go for the throats. So now they're empty-handed and they can start castling. Nothing to exile with Trespasser at least. So yeah, looks like another main phase Curiosity. Attack, draw 2. And then hope they don't have another removal spell. Alright, probably worth it to keep up the extra Snare. Fall to 4. And then I might get in with Mutavault next turn, depending on the board. Yeah, let's double counter the Aetherborn. It's gonna put me to 3. So seeing the value of the extra discount from the enchantment. And they had another Aetherborn after all that. So now Mutavault cannot attack. So yeah, better top deck something useful. Well, I guess never mind. Mutavault would have actually been a 3-powered creature to begin with, so I could have traded it for an Aetherborn, I suppose. And draw with Castle. So the plan here is animate Mutavault, counter Liliana, can use the No More Lies. And then fall to 1 life. But we'll get to draw 4, so I'm pretty likely to find something useful. Another Curiosity can block and Skyclave can exile. So we might have finally turned the corner. Opponent passes. Not sure what they would keep in hand to prevent them from maybe using Castle. Maybe another Urborg, but I expect them to only have 1. Well, I'm just going all out here. Still enough cards in library where I'm not gonna deck. But that's now the primary concern. Got a few more counter spells. Okay, play the Mutavault. Probably fine to play the Wanderer, since that can also counter stuff. And then pass with all these goodies available. Did not pick up rattle chains, which would have been nice to protect. Fatal push a phantom. Yeah, I'll fight over it. Or do I? We still easily have lethal without it. I might need more counter spells to stop a sweeper, although those typically cost around 4 mana. So I'll still have double No More Lies, triple No More Lies. Although I cannot tap a Dark Arc Waste for colored mana. Yeah, I think we let it go. So keep 7. Something along these lines. Alright, and that'll do it. Incredibly close game against Mono Black. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Hand is functional. Facing a green deck, maybe Devotion. I'll Seam Rip. Next turn we can keep up Rattle Chains and No More Lies. Another Mystic. And Llanowar Elves. Especially Cavalier of Thorns we need to deal with, because that's a big reach creature that can get in the way. Uncounterable, thanks to Cavern of Souls. Yeah, that's rough. Don't often see Cavern in these Devotion decks. So that resolves, finds another Cavern. So I'll have to Rattle Chains and then maybe Sheltered by Ghost to get rid of the Cavalier. And then I would still have Snare up, so that's useful. Or we can flash in a Mausoleum Wanderer thanks to the Rattle Chains. Nissa I can counter. And a Phantom is awesome. So I'll main phase the Phantom. Hit for 4. Pass a turn. And now Solemn is fine, doesn't win the game. Although you could make the argument that by ramping my No More Lies becomes weaker. But it also allows me to add another threat to the board to get the game over with. Okay, so as long as I don't play an uncounterable creature, we should be good. Ugin. Well, gotta pay the ward. Unless they target the enchantment itself. So that's what they'll do. I can still counter Ugin, of course, but yeah, not ideal. Opponent gets Cavalier back on defense. And we're not attacking for lethal quite yet. So if I go all out, opponent blocks, takes 3. Yeah, this is bad. They also found a Storm the Festival. Was maybe reason to keep the No More Lies to counter another Storm if they cast it from hand to exile it. Although they have enough mana to pay for it now. So we're just hoping to find enough creatures to get past the Cavalier. Another Shelter by Ghosts would do it. So if I still had a No More Lies, this would have gotten exiled. And another uncounterable Cavalier. Yeah, this game is slipping away. It's a pretty unique build of the Devotion deck. Phantom helps, but not enough. Because I would pump Wanderer. But yeah, they can just block, essentially take 2. But maybe if I draw one more Phantom... Again, the Spirit Dragon, yeah, that one we can luckily snare. Opponent's 1 mana short. Flash and Phantom. And a Spell Queller. So if I attack all out, opponent can block, take 4. Yeah, it's rough, and next turn they get to resolve Storm the Festival, which I cannot Spell Queller. But if I can avoid another removal spell or reach creature, I could maybe cross the finish line next turn. Oddity draws a card. Okay, so they're not going for Storm the Festival. And Oddity I can Spell Queller. So did we actually steal it? They can't do anything else this turn. Next turn attack all out. And we'll have at least 6 damage going through. Awesome! On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Hand seems functional. Might actually play Hallowed Fountain untapped on 1. So there's no weirdness with me shocking a land to maybe represent a counterspell later. Opponent red-white, so it looks like aggro. And a cutter we can maybe shelter. I think this turn still keep up instants, and then I guess I would flash in Rattle Chains, which is better at protecting what I shelter. If I shelter now, they could still have a 1 mana removal spell is the problem. So maybe we start with Phantom. And then next turn we can look into using Sheltered by Ghosts. Clouds, it is an equipment deck. Okay. So then Sheltered by Ghosts on Cloud is going to be pretty important. Opponent runs out Colossus Hammer to trigger Cutter. They don't have a way to equip the hammer for free as far as we know. And typically you would use Sigarda's Aid, which requires you to have the aid in play first. So, yeah, not entirely sure where this is going yet. But I'll hit for 2, and then pass with no more lives available, since there's nothing I absolutely have to shelter right now. Another Cloud, that's acceptable. So what are we getting next? Another Cutter. So I think I'm fine to use no more lies if they cast it. They do get another Monk token. But now they don't have any amazing attacks. Well, I would not attack with Cloud in that spot, but maybe they've got another one in hand. Land 4 is useful. So now do I feel like using Sheltered? Can still keep up No More Lies and Rattle Chains. I think that's better than just going for Curiosity right away. And then Supreme Phantom has a bit more toughness in case we're worried about burn spells. Exile the Cutter itself. They could have the 5 damage instant, that gets a discount for controlling equipment. But then we can still protect with Rattle Chains. So do have to be mindful of it if they pass a turn, because we don't necessarily want to tap out. Although we also have the Wanderer to maybe protect. Our opponent did indeed have a 3rd Cloud. Can just counter whatever they play next, I guess. Goes for a third cutter. Take 4. Opponent stays back, maybe afraid of Mutavault. Okay, so now how do we feel about Curiosity main phase? Or do I keep up Rattle Chains to play around their potential interaction? If I main phase Curiosity, our opponent takes 4, I draw 2, I feel like we're in decent shape regardless. And with a Wanderer and a Ward, it's not easy for them to remove the Phantom. Might even draw into a Geistlight Snare, which I can still cast. Alright. Yeah, currently they only have a 1 mana discount. Pay the Ward, and then pay 2 for Wanderer. So they would need a land for that to resolve. Goes for Kellen's Adventure. Are we getting a 4th Steel Cutter, perhaps? Still have to watch out for Lethal Hammer out of nowhere with a Sigarda's Aid. So that's still very much a concern. Alright, gets their own Shelter by Ghost, because Kellen can also get Auras. But they cannot pay the Ward on Phantom, so maybe get rid of Curiosity. And they'll gain a bunch of life back. Or they can get rid of the Aura. That's fine too. So get back Cutter. So they do now have 2 equipment, but we also have Wanderer to maybe counter an instance. And I'll take 3. Okay, so if I get in with Mutavault, that's a 3/3. Still have some protection available. Damage happens. Get sheltered by Ghost back. And once again, probably on the Phantom. Get rid of Cutter. Could also exile the token. Can maybe still sheltered, or we can pass, and then between No More Lies and Rattle Chains, we should be able to survive even a hammer being equipped at instant speed. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a hand that could use an extra land or 2. Don't think it's bad enough to mulligan. Facing black-white aggro with Kithian. Find target for Seam Rip. And now Thalia, so there's some sort of humans deck. Alright, so can No More Lies, but we can end of turn Rattle Chains and hope for a 3rd land for Apparition. Which Zach is not going to protect against. So I guess this could just be 4 or 5 color legends. Which explains the mana base. Alright, so now could also Sheltered by Ghosts, to be fair. But I kind of prefer Skyclave Thalia. Maybe should have attacked first in case they have their own removal here, but I doubt they're running a 1 mana instance in a Thalia deck. And removing it first does play around Eiganjo channeling to deal 4 damage, because they had 2 legends. They have a backup Thalia. So now, do we Sheltered or do we just run it back? I guess we run it back. And the additional creature also makes our curiosity better once we get to it. Opponent's gonna deck in stone, which gets rid of both copies of Skyclave. Yeah, don't see that one every day. Do get some clue tokens in return. But now we're behind on board. And we're not drawing a land to number 4. Well, I guess we're attacking and keeping up no more lies and can maybe sack a clue. Could sack now. Although if I fail to draw an untapped land, I'm in serious trouble. They could also have Cavern of Souls to name human, to make those uncounterable. Vanguard seems worth countering. Would pump all humans. With the Sheltered, we can eventually gain some life back. Now I could maybe try to draw into a land. I'll still have Geistlight Snare available. Alright. Can be blue. Gonna keep attacking since I don't really want to trade. And now a Serve on Dame. I'll use a No More Lies, which is pricier. Not that this is necessarily the end of the world if it resolves. But yeah, we're far enough behind on board where it's probably best I deal with it. Alright, land is ideal, because that lets me Curiosity keep up Snare. Although I would fall to 5 in the process. So then could get in trouble if they have multiple removal spells. But I think we try it. Because Curiosity has a naturally good block. Now we might see the channel that I was talking about earlier, but they don't. They might be saving it on attacks. End of turn Ademi. Yeah, so we have to counter it, but now I'm dead to removal on Curiosity before I got a chance to Sheltered by Ghosts. Vanguard is survivable. So I have to be careful here, because Zach can put a counter somewhere. So I don't want to block Zach. So now they sack Zach. I can at most take 3. So they'll just let damage happen. And another Serve on Dame. Okay, so definitely have to Sheltered here to gain some life back. I assume we exile the Vanguard. Although that's still gonna pump this up. So then we can't actually attack with Enduring Curiosity without trading, which is something I want to avoid. So then I can Sheltered on the Rattle Chains, exile Vanguard, and maybe no attacks with Curiosity. Don't get to gain as much life that way. Yeah. Does have Ward 1, could just exile Serve on Dame itself, I suppose. And then the Curiosity gets to attack. And then I can still flash in the Rattle Chains at least. Maybe that's worth it. This is lethal, so they actually have to chump. Forgot our opponent was at 5 from all these pain lanes. Okay, and then now we get to pass with Rattle Chains. This is not a Spirit, sadly, so can't give it hexproof, but can protect the other Rattle Chains at least. And yeah, they have another deck in stone, although they have to tap out to pay the ward. So that happens. And get Serve on Dame back. but our opponent's dead in the air to the 2 flyers. So an incredibly close game. And a Supreme Phantom could now also pump the team, but it's not going to be necessary. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have double Wanderer, counterspell, some removal. It's not great, but still keepable. Facing Swamp Thoughtseize probably. Takes 1 Wanderer. Does the second one survive? And the rest... yeah, that resolves. Takes a No More Lies. And Cecil. That one we can Seam Rip. Next turn, keep up Spell Queller. And an Aetherborn is next, alright. And a Thoughtseize. That's rough. I think I do counter, so they don't see Spell Queller. And I'm probably gonna need Sheltered by Ghosts to get rid of the Aetherborn. With the Animate Mutavault, I can try and ambush with Spell Queller. May or may not work out, depending on their last card. It was a go for the throat, so yeah, the perfect answer here. That's too bad. Now, I can either Rattle Chains first or Phantom first. I think it makes sense to play Phantom and then have Rattle Chains to protect it later, as opposed to being able to play Phantom at instant speed, which doesn't matter when I don't have any counter spells in hand anyway. But yeah, now with the Annex, I'll have to Shelter. And then hopefully I have a lane to protect Phantom with the Rattle Chains as well. Okay, so if they drew another removal spell, we might be in trouble. So the awkward race is on, hitting each other with 2 powered lifelinkers. Saboteur also hits pretty hard. Curiosity is great if we can get it down. So for now, attack for 2. They can't attack me with Mutavault, because my Mutavault's a 3/3. And if they don't attack, I get to play Rattle Chains end of turn. Opponent sending Mutavault anyway. So they're maybe about to learn. I did forget this interaction. Saboteur targeting a ward creature means you can just ignore the ability pretty much, so there's no downside to attacking with it. So that is pretty neat. And then I get to flash in Rattle Chains anyway. Alright, no mana for Enduring Curiosity. Only have single blue. But I can play Wanderer and then still animate Mutavaults, and I guess I can play this at instant speed as well. I'm fine trading a Rattle Chains for an Aetherborn. So should I keep this back? I guess so. Another Annex, that's problematic. But I cannot stop it with a Mausoleum Wanderer. Opponent's gonna target the Phantom again. And they're not gonna be so kind to pay the ward. Okay, so what makes sense now? I'm not gonna wanna animate Mutavault since we need our mana. So then it's just play another Rattle Chains, trade for Aetherborn, take 4. And another Rattle Chains, yeah. Not having double blue, potentially costing us. So if I attack for 2, I'm at 8, so at least I'm not dead to them making a Demon Token, but the Demon Token is also going to be a problem. So yeah. Not loving my spots. Need to top deck another Sheltered by Ghosts pretty much, or a Seam Rip maybe. Ooh, Fatal Push, so this could work out. Opponent has to pay the ward, and then I have another Rattle Chains. So they didn't get to make a demon this turn. Saboteur again, taking advantage of ward. Nope, targets Rattle Chains. I guess because this is hexproof, so they couldn't target it to begin with. Alright, so seeing some pretty fun interactions. Opponent is now at 12, they're gonna lose 2 to the Annex. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, I think they're just dead if they don't draw anything. And I can flash in a Wanderer to interfere. So we might have stolen this one. Had they just made a Demon Token, probably would have worked out better for them. But yeah, there we go, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with 1 land, which is not gonna cut it. This is better. Still probably gonna ditch a land, because I don't want to draw more. Well, maybe 1 more. Facing blue-reds. The Phoenix matchup is not particularly good. Eidetic Memory, I can Seam Rip. Or I can keep up Spell Queller for now. Alright, Thrill Seeker. So it is maybe a VV deck ported to Pioneer. So, once again, keep up Spell Queller, or we can go Seam Rip, still have a 1 mana Snare up. I think I want the extra Spell Queller in play ideally, so we have a faster clock. Opponent trying to bounce Spell Queller. If I Spell Queller again, that could turn out poorly, but I cannot really counter with these when our opponent's got 3 mana to pay. Now Fable is acceptable. Okay, so I can Seam Rip the Shaman token. And then I have a few counter spells up. Could even consider Seam Rip on Memory, because they will draw, so whatever creature they play next gets counters, but we can just counter whatever creature they play next, assuming it's expensive enough. But if it isn't, then I can Seam Rip it next turn. So I think that makes sense. Discarding Vivi, so gotta watch out for Cauldron. Floodmaw Spell Queller. Yeah, that resolves, because they can again pay. And then if they cast it, I can just cast a Spell Queller. And we're back to square one. But now they do get to resolve whatever they want. Another Fable. So that token picks up some counters. But I can now Seam Rip the token. Attack with Mutavault, I think. Could also keep up double counter spell. But our opponent's at 12, so Mutavault would make it a 2-turn clock. Especially if I draw a Lord, because of course they will get more creatures next turn that can get in the way. So it is still precarious. Opponent only discarding one card for Vivi, which I can counter with a No More Lies. Would also get exiled. And then now a third Floodmaw and Spell Queller. So there goes all my pressure. Thrillseeker's back, and yeah, now Spell Queller doesn't look so good anymore. So that backfired. Now I can just play a pair of Spell Quellers, but our opponent can also sack Thrillseeker to take one out. And they can copy Thrillseeker with Reflection, more importantly. So, yeah. I can play a pair of Spell Quellers. Alright, opponent's gonna sack Thrillseeker now. And they could have waited. I think I still play Spell Queller, and then if I draw Lord, I at least force them to use the Thrillseeker. Can get in with Mutavault. They have their own Mutavault to block, but so be it. Opponent trading Reflection. So are we dead on the way back? Probably. Maybe if they fight over the memory. Copy Thrillseeker. So yeah, if they just attack and sack both, we are dead. So opponent lets it get countered. If I had another flash creature, maybe I survive this, but nope. Yeah, the 1-mana interaction, getting the job done here. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a hand that needs a second white source, but it's got potential. Opponent starting with a Leyline of Resonance, so it's a deck full of pump spells. Oh, I do have a Sheltered by Ghosts. Don't know if I'll get to use it. Now Swift Spear and Ancestral Anger, so they get to draw a bunch of cards. Countering would still let them get to copy, so yeah, it's not looking good. I'd probably still go for Sheltered, and then Probably go for the Heartfire Hero still over Leyline. Oh, that's a close call. If I get rid of Leyline, they don't get to double up. We'll try this approach. But they might have a burn spell and be able to pay the ward. Just a hasty challenger. I really could have used a land. So now can shelter it again. Gain 3. And then at least we'll have ward 4 going forward. I guess that makes sense. And then Heartfire versus Challenger. They're both pretty scary. Heartfire's better with a fling effect, which could maybe cross the finish line. Challenger can draw them more cards. I'll go with a more expensive card. Because then we can maybe Skyclave Heartfire, and if they remove it, they only get a 1/1. Slickshot's a problem. Although they're attacking with it. So if they fling, it's not quite lethal. They do have to pay the ward. So not sure what's going on. Alright, they just wanted to pump the Heartfire maybe? Okay, so now I get to attack, play Skyclave, or can go Supreme Phantom, keep up Snare, or maybe play Wanderer. So we have quite a few options actually. Spell Queller an option 2. Yeah, I feel like I'm probably safe at 11 from the Slick Shots, so then Skyclave Exile Heartfire might be the safest. Because Heartfire is the more threatening one with another Sellsword if they go face. But it does mean I now don't have double blue for next turn. And we also get to pump the Wanderer, so we actually gain 4. Hardcast Leyline. Take 5. And Seamrip can answer Slick Shots. Okay. Opponent's at 11. So do we like Phantom, or do we keep up Snare? Probably go for Phantom. Could leave Skyclave back. Although I'm gaining 5 up to 12. For opponents at 6, next turn I can present lethal. Yeah, I guess it's safe enough to keep Skyclave back in case they have Pump Spell plus Fling Effect or just 2 Pump Spells. Alright, and we got there. Definitely needed to get a bit lucky here. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Hand is not perfect, but functional. We'll just be at the mercy of a quick start from our opponents, as they're on an equipment deck. And yeah, if they have creature into Colossus Hammer, we might be dead before we can remove it. It's gonna be Kemba. So next turn we might see the Colossus Hammer. So I just need to play Phantom, so I have something to enchant with Sheltered by Ghosts. And then I would also keep up Snare, so it would be a decent turn. Although if they have double Hammer, I'm just dead. It's gonna be Kellen to get the Hammer. So we're not just dead, that's good news. Opponent can flash it in at instant speed. Sheltered, exile Kemba. Keep up Snare. And next turn we have options. Fireblade Charger, I wouldn't be able to counter here. Kellen adventures again, probably getting Hammer, so may as well just counter this now. But yeah, if they cast a hammer, I would have been dead. So I could have let it resolve in case their last card in hand was another hammer, I suppose. But it didn't seem like it. Okay, so opponent played Zack. We're all good for now. Can run out the Curiosity, or I can go Skyclave, leave up Snare, which is definitely the safer play. Can exile Sigarda's Aid, and then their top decks aren't nearly as scary. When they can't flash in a hammer out of nowhere. And then next turn we get to curve out Curiosity plus Snare. Now there is a pump spell, as I recall, that targets warriors specifically, which can still equip the hammer that's in play. So then I have to block to survive. Zack is not a warrior, so we'll see what happens. Just 1 damage. Maybe it was a bluff. Play Kellen. Not gonna counter it. And then I'm fine running out the Curiosity. Gain 2 draw card. Okay. Now Raban, that is a way for them to equip things for free, and I have just enough to counter here. Otherwise next turn they could have equipped the hammer when attacking. Can of course still exile the hammer itself. Take the hit from Kellen. Zack only makes indestructible, doesn't give hexproof. Although they could animate Mutavault and then turn it into a 3/3 essentially. So they get to eat Curiosity or Skyclave. I think that's reasonable. Can still get in with Mutavault myself. Attack, see what happens. We'll see if they make the Mutavault play. Because they could soak up an attack with Zack for free, basically. They didn't go for it. So damage happens. Can put counter on Kellen. But that's now a better target for Skyclave. And we'll even have Snare up, I believe. So that works out beautifully. So now, what's the worst case? Can't think of much. Even with Mutavault and a hammer in play, we should be fine. Although I guess Mutavault is technically a warrior as well. Kemba we can just counter. And then we should be able to cross the finish line. So yeah, scary start from our opponent. They equipped the hammer, but luckily we had the right answer. GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Missing a creature is problematic. Do have double No More Lies. You know, for a creatureless hand, this isn't bad, because as soon as I find a creature, I'll be able to suit it up, protect it. And who likes mulliganing? So mono black perhaps. Alright, just need land 3 now. Trespasser, a good one to counter. And now we've got Spell Queller up. Ooh, Obliterator. Okay, so Spell Queller looks good. Could also exile it with Skyclave, but yeah, I just want to get the Spell Queller down. Okay, and then hit for 2, keep up a pair of counter spells. Strategic Betrayal, wow. Yeah, that's a pretty nice answer here. So I'm gonna have to double counter it. So I might have to play Skyclave just to have something to sacrifice. I have plenty more removal in hand. Another Betrayal. And a Trespasser. At least the graveyards are empty. So I can Skyclave over Sheltered. And then discard a land. Seamrip can maybe answer the Skyclave token. Invoke Despair, sack a creature. Yeah, guess we get rid of Skyclave. And then we're still pretty far behind. If I sack Spell Queller, they get Obliterator. Can't Seamrip that one. And I don't think Sheltered by Ghosts is going to be good against a deck with a million Edict effects. Alright, Supreme Phantom helps. Maybe I should just Shelter instead of using Seamrip, so we at least protect the Spell Queller a bit more, and they won't get the token back anyway. Although Phantom, they can Fatal Push. So it's not looking good. Thoughtseize takes Seamrip. And Shieldred's, that is beatable. And Enduring Curiosity was a pretty nice top deck, even though it's going to cost me some life. I'll still take it. Opponent falls to 3, gain 4, lose 4. Could have considered playing Seamrip just to have something to sack to invoke Despair that's not the Sheltered by Ghosts. Push Phantom. And Sorin can also make a token, which we can maybe Seamrip.
Violence is necessary. You fight for me now.
So probably safest that I attack Sorin, then I don't get to draw. So it's a close call. Yeah, opponent can make another Vampire next turn is a problem.
What's one more grudge?
Some pretty nervous top decks. Surprise Spell Queller has survived this long. Another Obliterator. Okay. And an Aetherborn. Fine Spell Queller. So I'm still gonna attack here. And a rattle chain, so we're kind of doing it. So now would be a great time for them to try and kill my creature. They've got a Thoughtseize, I'll Spell Queller it. So I can keep on holding rattle chains for a bit longer. Although our opponent losing 2 could also be relevant, to be fair. And an Aetherborn. That's fine. So our opponent's going to gain 2 up to 8. And then we have, let's see, 7 on the way back. So it's not quite lethal. Unless we draw a Lord. Let's see, what if I Rattle Chains, double block Shieldreds? Then they have to Thoughtseize me, or do they may cast that card so they don't have to? Yeah, close one. I don't hate blocking Shieldreds. Keep Spell Queller. And then opponent trades. We take 2, fall to 10, but at least we're not losing life from Shieldreds. Still attacking with 2 flyers. And a Sheltered by Ghosts is awesome. So in hindsight, keeping the creature might have done it here. Now, which ones should I enchant? Probably makes sense to enchant the second one, so we gain more life. And then exile. Obliterator's a little scarier. But yeah, opponent's gonna scoop it up. So getting rid of an Aetherborn might have still been the play just to win the race more easily. But there we have it, some very close and tense games along the way. But yeah, Blue-White Spirits seems like a solid deck for the current Pioneer metagame. There's a couple ways to build it. Can also deviate from the Spirit theme and just go Blue-White Flash with a bunch of Flash creatures and counter spells. That can also work wonders. So that's generally kind of the playstyle you're looking for. Apply some pressure, flash in some creatures, have a bit of interaction in the form of removal and counter spells, and keep your opponents off balance until you can take over with an Enduring Curiosity. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.